Trump attacked the impeachment process that's underway in the House, likening it to a lynching. The president tweeted in part, "All Republicans must remember what they are witnessing here, a lynching, but we will win." A steady stream of political figures, including some Republicans, have already condemned the remark, including Massachusetts Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley. She called the president a bigoted man and asked for the strength to hold the president accountable for every single thing he says and does.
The president's frustrated. I mean, if you had to go through the 3 years that that the president's had to live through, I think that just is an example of the frustration the president feels. Remember, this all started even before he got elected. This started on July 31st, 2016, when Jim Comey opened the investigation and put the country through 3 years of this false accusation that somehow the president worked with Russia to impact the election. So going through that, and now this ridiculous charade that the Democrats are putting him through, you can understand why the president's frustrated. Today is our seventh witness. Mr. Taylor, I think, is our seventh witness. I don't think we've heard from any of the people the whistleblower references in his complaint. You look on page 1 of the complaint, he says, over the past 4 months, I've talked to more than half a dozen U.S. officials. I don't know that we've heard from any of those more than half a dozen U.S. officials. These are the people with supposedly the firsthand knowledge who gave the whistleblower the information that formed the basis of his complaint. And we have, in my estimation, we probably haven't heard from any of them.
In every sense, this is a mob taking over the rule of law. This is fundamentally un-American. And until it changes, I will fight back as hard as I can. And what would make it change? A vote of inquiry is necessary to empower the Republican minority in the House to confront accusations against the president. A vote of inquiry allows the president to confront his accuser and to call witnesses on his behalf. Until that is done, this is a joke, this is a sham, and this is a political lynching. When it's about Trump, who cares about the process, as long as you get him? So yeah, this is a lynching in every sense. This is un-American. I've never seen a situation in my lifetime as a lawyer where somebody's accused of a major misconduct who cannot confront the accuser, call witnesses on her behalf, and have the discussion in the light of the day so the public can judge. If this continues in the House, it's a complete sham, and I will do everything I can to make sure it doesn't live very long in the Senate.
That's a really racially charged word. Do you disagree with that?
Yeah, I do actually disagree with that. I think the fact of the matter is that you're talking about something that's akin to a death row trial from a political perspective. So we should keep our focus on the fact that this is something that is being done behind closed doors. It is being done in secret. It is being done in a way that does not give the public any ability to have confidence in the process, which I think will work to the Democrats' own challenge.
And still I rise, Mr. Speaker. And I rise today with a heavy heart and tears welling in my eyes. I rise. I rise because how dare the president compare lynching to impeachment? How dare he do this? Does he not know the history of lynching in this country? Does he not know that thousands of African Americans were lynched, mob violence? Does he not know that this is the equivalent of murder? How dare the president compare Article 2, Section 4 of the Constitution, a lawful constitutional process, to mob violence and lynching?
Well, I think to have the president classify a constitutional remedy to an unlawful, egregious act such as lynching is beneath the dignity of the office of President of the United States. I happen to be a native of South Carolina. I represent the 6th Congressional District of South Carolina, and I know the historical context of that term. And I also know that the President has scheduled a visit to South Carolina for Friday at an HBCU. Benedict College is in the center of my congressional district, in the capital of the state of South Carolina, and it has a student body that is a bit unnerved at times by that term. And so I just think that the President is attempting to change the narrative, to start a discussion about him that has nothing to do with reality. But that's just as President.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.
Well, you've never seen anything like it, and I've never seen anything like it, and I've been in the room where it happened many, many times, but I never saw anyone in that room do what Nancy Pelosi did today when she literally stood up to the President of the United States. And because Donald Trump has the weakest mind in the history of the American presidency, he released the photograph of that moment, captured perfectly by a White House photographer. We would not have that photograph if Donald Trump had not made the profoundly stupid mistake of tweeting it. And that photograph, thanks to Donald Trump, will now become the single most important and indelible photographic image of the Trump presidency. It tells the story of the Trump presidency better than any other photograph. Nancy Pelosi immediately placed that photograph on her Twitter page, and she will never replace it with a better photograph. It is the perfect portrait of the child president. The Trump face is full of the confusion and fear of a 4-year-old boy being rebuked by an adult in the room, full of adults who know he shouldn't be there. 50 years from now, school children studying American history will come upon this photograph, and they will instantly know who was in charge in that room. The adult standing and pointing at the pained face across the table. Historians will recognize that when Nancy Pelosi stood up to that president today, she wasn't just standing up for herself and for Congress. She was standing up for the millions of Americans and millions of people around the world who immediately stood up to Donald Trump after he was inaugurated in what turned out to be the largest inauguration protest in history, a protest that went worldwide. She was standing up for American voters whose democracy has been attacked by foreign agents while Donald Trump welcomes those attacks. She was standing up for children held in custody at the southern border by Donald Trump and mothers and fathers separated from those children by Donald Trump. She was standing up for Kurds in Syria being killed tonight by forces unleashed by Donald Trump. She was standing up to the lies and racist poison that Donald Trump has been spewing since he first opened his mouth about President Obama's birth certificate. She was standing up for all of us against all of that. And so, of course, it was impossible for Donald Trump to understand the moment, impossible for him to understand what that photograph represents to the world. That's why he tweeted it into history today. What Nancy Pelosi was saying to Donald Trump then was, all roads with you lead to Putin. Those words will be forever memorable. Former CIA Director John Brennan will join us tonight. We'll ask him about the Trump roads that lead to Putin, including Donald Trump's abandonment of the Kurds and how that serves Vladimir Putin, a point that was made strongly today by some Republican senators. Speaker Pelosi stood up to Donald Trump and said all roads with you lead to Putin after an incoherent rant by Donald Trump, which she described to reporters this way.
Go ahead.
What we witnessed on the part of the president was a meltdown. Sad to say.
Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on the button below for more from The Last Word and the rest of MSNBC.
A tweet from Carl Palladino, the former candidate for New York governor and a current surrogate for Donald Trump's campaign, appeared to suggest that the Attorney General of the United States, Loretta Lynch, should be lynched. The tweet appeared on Wednesday morning. Palladino tweeted, "Lynch at Loretta Lynch, let a grand jury decide." The tweet has since been deleted. Palladino's spokeswoman, Jackie O'Bannon, told the Daily Beast that she had written the offending tweet. O'Bannon said, "I made a mistake of adding Lynch in the beginning. Sorry, no story here. I just tweeted by mistake."
You are about to hear ugly and offensive language. Language that was aimed at Congressman Al Green, who became the first lawmaker to call for the impeachment of President Trump from the House floor. Mr. Green played the messages from his phone line during a recent town hall.
We're going to impeach nobody. Try it, and we'll lift up if you can't from a tree. I didn't see anybody calling for the impeachment of your Obama. He was born in Kenya. He's not even American. So
hey, Al Green, we got an impeachment for you. It's going to be yours. In fact, we even give you a short trial before we had.
There is another, but we're not playing it at this time. Friends, I want to assure you that no amount of threats and intimidation will stop what I have started, I promise you.
Congressman Al Green joins me now live. Congressman, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Congressman Green, to play those voicemails over the weekend, that cannot have been an easy decision to make, that language for your constituents. Why did you want to do that?
It was not an easy decision, but it was a necessary one. You cannot hide hate. You have to confront hate. If you allow it to be hidden, there will be people who will quite frankly not believe that the level of hate that exists is there. And it's so unfortunate that many African Americans have to live knowing that they can be threatened with lynching. And it really doesn't matter where you are in life. Your station in life is not as important as what these people will say. You can be the CEO of a major corporation, or you can be one of 435 members of Congress, and you can still be threatened with murder, because that's what that was all about. Lynching is murder, and people make these threats, and we have to expose them.
Did you call police, or did you call the FBI?
We've called the Capitol Police, which is what we're instructed to do, and there is an investigation. We are hopeful that there will be a prosecution, and we're continuing to monitor our calls. There are other things that we're doing to make sure that we're properly secured. I'm honored to say that the Honorable Jim Clyburn called me, and he is advising me. He is the Assistant Speaker, and the Honorable Benny Thompson, who is a ranking member on Homeland Security, called me. And they're counseling me, and I'll be doing some other things, but I won't be turned around. This is not about the persons who actually made these threats. It's really about something that has an impact on our democracy, and we're going to stay the course.
From what I understand, this was in part really in reaction to your calling for President Trump's impeachment last week. And I mean, we are in the midst of multiple investigations, Congressman. You know that. The results have yet to be announced. Even your leader in the House, Nancy Pelosi, said that she, in essence, doesn't subscribe to impeachment. Here she was.
If you're talking about impeachment, you're talking about what are the facts? Not, I don't like him and I don't like his hair, and I think, what are the facts? I don't like what he said about this or that. What are the facts that you would make a case on? What are the rules that he may have violated? If you don't have that case, you're just participating in more hearsay.
Now, since then, Leader Pelosi has said the president has made himself, quote unquote, very vulnerable, but that she still doesn't want to feed the impeachment talk. I mean, that is your party's leader on the House side. Do you, Congressman Green, think your call for impeachment is premature?
Well, let me say this is really not about Democrats. It's about democracy. It's about government of the people, by the people, for the people. And it's not about Republicans. It's about the republic. It's about what Benjamin Franklin said when he said, you have a republic if you can keep it. It's about keeping the republic. And let me just share some facts with you. The president confessed. He confessed on national television. He said that this whole Russia thing is made up. And he went on to say that he thought about that at the time he made his decision to just do it. When he did that, and then he fired Comey, that was an impeachable act. If he hadn't fired him, then you wouldn't have an impeachable act. If he hadn't said he did it because of the investigation, you wouldn't have an impeachable act. But when you combine these two things, you have an impeachable act. And the bar of justice for this type of impeachable act, according to Article 2, Section 4 of the Constitution, is the Congress of the United States of America. He won't be found guilty if he's impeached. The Senate tries a case, but the House can find a president guilty. I'm one of 435 members. Every member can bring a resolution of impeachment. If I choose to bring it, I will have it heard. What the results will be, I do not know. But this is not about Democrats. It's not about Republicans. It's about the country.
We'll let the results of these investigations play out, and also that of Bob Mueller, the special counsel. But final question, you started by talking about you need to confront hate. Congressman Green, if you could talk to one of the individuals on the other end of that phone, leaving those racist voicemails, what would you say to them, one-on-one?
I would want him to know, first, that you are in the midst and in the company, I am sure, of some African Americans. And I'm just concerned about your behavior toward them and how you would treat them. I would also want him to know that there are little black girls and boys who grow up in this country, and we don't want them to be exposed to the level of hate that they would perpetrate. This is a great country. It can be made greater if we can eliminate the hate against African Americans, also other communities, LGBTQ, persons who happen to be of a religion that you don't respect. These are the things that we have to fight constantly. If we don't fight them, hate will rule, and if hate rules, we lose our democracy. I want you to know we're going to protect our democracy.
Congressman Al Green, thank you for your time, sir. I appreciate you coming on.
The president's frustrated. I mean, if you had to go through the 3 years that that the president's had to live through, I think that just is an example of the frustration the president feels. Remember, this all started even before he got elected. This started on July 31st, 2016, when Jim Comey opened the investigation and put the country through 3 years of this false accusation that somehow the president worked with Russia to impact the election. So going through that, and now this ridiculous charade that the Democrats are putting him through, you can understand why the president's frustrated. Today is our seventh witness. Mr. Taylor, I think, is our seventh witness. I don't think we've heard from any of the people the whistleblower references in his complaint. You look on page 1 of the complaint, he says, over the past 4 months, I've talked to more than half a dozen U.S. officials. I don't know that we've heard from any of those more than half a dozen U.S. officials. These are the people with supposedly the firsthand knowledge who gave the whistleblower the information that formed the basis of his complaint. And we have, in my estimation, we probably haven't heard from any of them.